Welcome to the Art of Badassery, where I explore what it takes to live life on your own terms, break free from the status quo, and unleash your inner badass. Whether you're a rebel at heart or simply seeking inspiration to step outside your comfort zone, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Mahara Wayman, and each week I dive into the stories, insights, and strategies of those who have mastered the art of badassery and are living life to the fullest. They smile when no one is looking. Welcome to the Art of Badassery podcast. My name is Mahara, your host, and I'm really excited to introduce you to the amazing Mikkel Leslie joining us today. She is a coach, an author, and an advocate for living life on your terms. No wonder she's on the Art of Badassery. Growing up in a small town in Oregon in the 90s, Mikkel played trombone and clarinet in the band and had ever-changing dreams to be things ranging from a teacher to an engineer, and apparently it's still evolving. Now living by the beach in Southern California with her husband and pet plants, she enjoys the outdoors, hiking, running, skiing, and meditating. So grab your favorite drink and sit down with us as we dive into her journey of self-discovery and, of course, badassery. Mikkel, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to dive in here.
Oh, we're going to have fun today. So first of all, love the wall hangings behind.
Yes.
Is it an elephant, a turtle, or a camel? I can't see.
It is an elephant on both sides of me.
Let's jump in right away and answer this the burning question that our audience wants to know, which is, girlfriend, why are you badass?
Oh yeah, I'm not badass because I am. Like, that's just it. Like, right? Yeah, we all are badasses, and when we own it, we can step into that energy and become it. Yeah, I think knowing you are one, you can really sink into living the life of your own dreams, of really choosing like, oh, this is not what I want to do anymore. I want to step onto the next stage of what's next for me. And realizing when you own that life for yourself, own that badassery, the more you can become it and have that as your life.
Such a great answer. You get top marks, but I'm curious. Have you always been like this?
Or no.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, here we go.
Right. Yeah. So you mentioned trombone, clarinet. So I was the band geek in middle school and high school. That was me for sure. And so growing up, I was a little more shy, recluse, didn't speak much, like didn't know social interactions made me a little hesitant, a little like popular kids, like, oh, they're so popular, I don't know what to do here. And it's funny because I've learned over time that my friend groups, the people that I'm close with, change over time. And so during school, that was hard because it's the same people year over year, at least when I was stick in the same town to be able to do that. And so each year I'd be like, oh, I want to be here, but here. And then my mind was like, I should like be able to stick with one friend group like everyone else does. So many doubts and fears and questions with it all. And so only after years of diving into myself, of understanding like who I am and how I work and what do I want and allowing myself to have that, that's when I can own my badass self.
Such an interesting point that you bring up, which is giving ourselves permission to question. Yeah. And, you know, as you were talking, I remember being in high school and grade school and high school. And we weren't taught that. We were just, to be honest, I'm not even sure what I was taught other than you want to fit in.
Yeah.
And that worked for me up until a certain point. And then I realized that I just didn't fit in anywhere. And that was where I first began to question, who am I really if I can't fit in the environment that I was born into and raised into? Can you share with us some times from maybe being a geek in high school that you began, what it felt like just give us an example of beginning to find yourself or beginning to just question yourself?
Oh, in high school, I'm not sure I was there to question. Well, no, there is one point. So I was in band for years and years. So in middle school started in high school. And then my senior year, the band teacher was awful. Like I did not like him at all. And it's sad and funny because the year that I came into high school, the band teachers switched. And the previous one, like everyone loved. Everyone was like loved them. And they left, and this new guy came in. He was like to the books and like trying to get state championships and everything and doing like these Japanese-based, Asian-based songs. And everyone was like, what the hell is this? Like, this does not make sense. And so I didn't like him at all. And so I continued through because that was what I was supposed to do. I was good. I played my instruments, like I did everything. But because of the environment and the lack of support that I was receiving, I questioned it. I was like, okay, like I don't need to practice. Like I practiced for so long in middle school and like my first year in high school, and I was like, oh, there's no point. Like I don't need to practice because I'm like this is stuff that I know that's so easy for me. And so didn't practice and I was like, oh yeah, this is not right for me. And everyone liked the choir teacher. I was like, oh, maybe choir, like maybe that'll be better. And so halfway through my senior year, I switched. I went into the band teacher and was like, I'm dropping. Like I'm here, but no, not anymore. Like I'm switching over. And so that was a time of sinking into being like, okay, yeah, like I can change this. I can choose me and what it is that I want and know that each day that I choose to be a part of something that's not right for me, the more it drains me, the more I question it. I remember sitting, so there was like a 7 a.m. class that we had, like zero period. And I would be like laying on my trombone, waiting for the saxophones to like get their riff right and be like, this is stupid. Like me and the other trombones, like we know our shit. Like, why are we here? What are we doing this? And it was just, I was done with it all. And so it was beautiful to be able to step into the choir and have fun and enjoy it and be able to sing with my voice.
So many juicy things there, not the least of which was recognizing your right to have fun.
Hmm. Yes.
And of course, when we're back in high school, that may seem more prevalent. It's okay for kids to have fun. When we're adults, we may dampen that a little bit. But what I'm hearing and what I see, if you're watching this, you'll see it too, is her energy's through the roof. Especially when she talked about switching from something that drained her energy to a place that your energy was in where you had more energy and it was a lot of fun. So would you say then that part of your badassery journey has been recognizing what fills your cup and feel what makes you feel like you're having fun?
Right? Yeah, totally. I think that's it for all of us when we realize and step back and be like, okay, what fills me up? What drains me? And how can I decrease that drain and really fill you up on a more continuous basis? Because we do have that choice each day of what that is. And it can be hard and daunting and be like, okay, like, yeah, this things that I've been doing for my whole life, like, can't do that anymore because they're not right for me. That's really scary. But yeah, I think choosing yourself is what it comes back to for me of realizing and seeing like, oh yeah, like what lights you up, what gets you excited is choosing you. And you're deserving and worthy of that. So let's do that all the time.
You make it sound so easy, and I know that I sometimes make it sound easy, but can you take us back to a time when the choice wasn't that easy?
Yeah. So many choices. So let's see which ones. Oh, yes. So, mm, my first job at a college. So I worked at a paper mill on the coast of Oregon. So I went to Oregon State, grew up in Oregon. And there I was an engineering intern and like felt like, okay, like I'm doing the things and like, other people have gotten to positions from going from engineering intern to being a full-time engineer. So like, oh yeah, I'll do that. I was one of the ones that wanted that. So I applied for the position, went through the interview process and everything. And then, spoiler alert, they decided it wasn't for me. And so, going into the office of my manager and him telling me, like, you didn't get it. It's like, oh, fuck. Like, I put all my eggs in this basket. Like, this is what's supposed to be next for me. It was a blessing in disguise, of course, as everything is that doesn't work out for us. But it was so hard to be like, oh, yeah, like, I thought this was it. I thought that's what we were going to do. So I cried out of there, went to my car, and went home. It's like, okay, I'm done. Screamed my lungs out, singing to the different songs, and be like, just so much energy and determination to be like, yeah, this is my next step. And to be it pulled out from underneath me. And it being because I wouldn't speak in they had these values and they were like very corporate. And so they had these values and mission statements and things like that. And they wanted me to restate them and say them verbatim. And I didn't because I thought that was silly and stupid. And so when they gave me feedback on why I didn't get it, it was that. And I was like, cool, all right, whatever. Let's move on from here. It took me some time to do that, but that's okay.
I want to just jump in and get some clarity. Are you saying that you can get your first engineering job?
Yes, my full-time position. Yes. So I had an internship, so low getting paid, not permanent. And so it was that transition from that engineering intern at the same company, applying for that engineering position there and not getting it.
Because you wouldn't articulate their values.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, it was a good learning lesson because every other position that I continued to apply further, I was like, what is their mission statement? What is their values? I got this. Like, we can talk about this for sure. So that was very good for myself and everyone I talked to about applying for jobs, but it was a rude awakening at the time.
So I might understand then that you didn't follow the engineering path after that.
Correct. Yeah, it led me to question so much after that. I was like, okay, cool. Like, that's not it. That was like the easy transition from like, oh, engineering intern to engineer, like this is the path, do. And so after that, I was like, oh, what is it like that I really want to do? And so it led me to question being behind a desk all the time and having to do all the programs and figure out different things for that way. And I realized I liked interacting with the operators that were at the paper mill. So I would have to go in and tell them, like, you should really try running the machine like this and see how it happens. And we'll run the data and everything. And they'd be like, no, we don't want to do that. We got to get production. Like, we got to get everything together. But I love going in there and being like, hey, I brought some goodies for you, some baked cinnamon rolls here. If you run this for like an hour, maybe I'll bring you more. So it was a fun game of figuring out how each of the operators tick to be able to convince them to do what we needed to figure out the impacts of the different work. I was like, oh, that's totally sales. So from there, I moved down to California and started in a technical sales route where I brought my camera-based inspection systems. So I had a camera that told things if things were good or bad and to different assembly lines all throughout California and Oregon and Idaho, actually, in Washington, and was able to show people like what it was like. And it was really cool because that experience showed me how so many different things were made because it was like how it was made each day that I stepped into a different plant. And so that was really cool. But it was a very different path than what I had done before, but really cool and learning so much from it all. And of course, that eventually ended as well.
Okay, so I'm curious because this I'm always curious, but what did you learn about yourself that has you saying now all these years later that was really cool?
Hmm. I like how understanding how things work. Like to be able to see a pen and be like, oh yeah, I totally know how this was manufactured and put together and how it was assembled and everything. That is really cool to me because understanding why things happen and why things occur. The question of why has always been like my favorite question. Like you tell me to do something and I'm like, why? Why? I'll remember it better if you tell me why. If you don't want to like tell me why, then I probably will forget and I'll have to learn it myself. So I love understanding how things work and how things tick. And that's something that's still continued today.
Okay, so what came next?
Yes. So from there, there's a point where I was like, okay, I've been doing this for like 4 years now. Like, I want to be in management. I feel like that's the right step for me. I've been doing so many different things. I've been hiring so many different people and like splitting up my territory. And I was like, I could like totally manage them. That'd be totally fun. And I talked to my manager and was like, hey, so yeah, I want to manage people. And he's like, okay, well, we can start put you on the path. It's going to take about 2 years. You're going to have to do this role and be a manager at the same time. Like this is a process for it all. And I was like, cool. All right. So that first step, first of all, is to continue to cover my territory, make the same goals and manage people. So add on more responsibilities, no more pay. And then in 2 years, maybe I'll be able to get that promotion to be able to be full-time manager. Okay, got it. Yeah, I'm done. Out, guys.
I was waiting for that.
Right, exactly. And
Why would you do that?
right, exactly. And at the time, I was working with a startup actually, showing them my camera, showing them what's going on. And they're like, hey, tapping me on the shoulder, being like, you want to come over here, do some project management, do some sales, do some account management? And I'm like, sure. So I went over there for about 2 years. And there was very interesting. Startup vibe, so 20 to 40 people, depending on the time. And it was challenging and amazing and incredible. So it felt like a small family because we were all rooting together, trying to get things out the door. And what we were doing was we were a robotic integrator. So we would take assembly lines, bring in robots, and automate the system. So we were the ones that put all everything together and made it actually work. And so my role there was to be able to project manage everything, making sure that things all came together in the right order, communicating that to the customer, working with the engineers to tell them like, the customer wants this. I know you don't want to do this, but like, can we try like this or this? Or trying to brainstorm with them all. So as that middle person for it all, because you really don't want engineers to talk to a lot of customers because they just don't talk the same language. So that was really cool to be that intermediary with it all. Um, and as it was fun because I was able to be a part of the process of them getting bought out. Actually made the introduction to the people that bought them out. And so that was really cool to be part of that process. And as they were doing so, they're being bought out by a like fast food, like big conglomerate of different things. I was like, yeah, this isn't me. Like I'm not into that as much. I'm like healthy, sustainable, that type of thing. So I was like, okay, what's next for me? And I was stressed and burnt out. And I was like, okay, I need to do something that's more for me. So I thought outdoor industry because I love the outdoors. Like, oh yeah, that would be a good transition. I tried. I really did. I really tried. But the commute,
What did you try with?
so like getting there, doing it, doing the role. So I was project manager, similar to what I was doing at the previous company, but with the commute and the role that I was doing, it was a new role. So they had really had it fully defined. And about 9 months in, I had done everything that needed to be done. So it was like this open space of like, oh, what's next? And with the commute being so awful, like I started to stay over there overnight because the commute was so bad. I was just done. Like, okay, cool. And at that point, I'm like, I need to figure out something. So I was like trying to figure out an easy out. I mean, like, what am I going to do? Love the outdoors still. Like, I still love that. So let me write a book about women in the outdoors. Like, I'm just gonna leave and do that. I know, right? Yeah. I just needed an out of some sort. I was like, please, like, save me in some way because I was stressed, overwhelmed. Like, couldn't just deal with a commute and everything. I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave and write this book. So I left, and then my sister told me that I don't write. And she was totally correct. I didn't write at the time anything. And so that was a rude awakening, which led me 6 months to of an early retirement and figuring out what it is that I wanted because I didn't have a job, like I didn't have anything. So I dove into what is it that I wanted myself. Like at the end of the day, what drove me? What did I want? And I backpacked in California because I wanted to be outdoors and I was going to be outdoors. So that was the next step for me.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here and just say, holy shit, what a story. Because really, what I'm hearing is that all along the journey, you kept asking why or why not, which is part of being a badass, right? Is having this amazing dialogue with yourself. It's not always easy to do, right? I totally get that. But what I want to just go back to is in the vein of asking why did you allow yourself to stay so long in a position that was draining you?
Yeah. I see this so much myself with the clients that I work with and people around me of that inability to leave something that's draining you, that's something that's not filling your cup. And it can be hard in it because that can be all that you know. The only thing that you know is draining you, is there and being present and making the money and going in, day out. You don't know anything else. And so for us as humans, the unknown is scary. We don't know what we don't know, and that's scary. Like, what's going to happen next? Where am I going to get money? How am I going to live? All these different things. And we think about, and I thought about myself, like, okay, I have all these responsibilities, all of these different things. I have bills to pay, I have different things. And only when I was able to pay off my car and pay off my school loans and then have $25,000 in the bank and looking at it and be like, why am I doing all this? This is not worth it. Like for my whole life, I had been driven by money because I've seen my parents not that being the biggest stressor in our lives as growing up. And so seeing that money in the bank account and being like, it's not worth it. Like I'm still stressed out. This is not the solution. And for me, that was the wake up sign to be like, okay, like there's got to be something else out there. And that was the paradigm shift for me because what I thought to be true was not true. And seeing that number there allowed me to realize, being like, not true. Okay, now I can move on. And so flipping those paradigms for all of us is the issue, is the question, and figuring out what those are can be hard when you're stressed and overwhelmed because we don't question ourselves. We don't have time and space or energy to be like, oh, what is it? What's going on?
So good. All right. Did you ever go back and start writing?
Yes. So after that, I worked at a wilderness therapy program for a quick hot year and then started coaching. And from coaching, I started using social media, and that's where I started writing. And then started writing my book and became an author. So now I am an author.
Celebrating you,
Right. Thank you.
celebrating you. What did your sister think when you said, by the way, remember a couple of years ago when you said I didn't write? Guess what?
Right. Yeah. It's funny because when I get determined, when we all get determined about something and be like, I am doing this no matter what the fuck you say, then it's just it. But when someone else puts that doubt in, that just reflects your own doubt. And so when she said that, it showed me like, oh yeah, I don't really ready. Okay, cool. Like, I'm not ready for this. But when I started writing my book, I was like, I'm ready. Like, I've been coaching for years now. I have all these stories. I have all my experiences. I need to get this out. Like it was bubbling to get out of me. So she was supportive. She read it. She told me about it. I was like, oh yeah, that's beautiful. I've actually coached her. And so that's been a wonderful experience as well.
Wow, so, so good. I remember when I started writing, to your point, it never even occurred to me to not do it because I had no expectations. It wasn't connected to the outcome of being, you know, successful. It was just, I just felt driven to do it until I didn't, until I started getting connected to the outcome. And then it all became very convoluted, very cumbersome, and it wasn't fun anymore. So I really appreciate that you brought that up, that it's our own doubts that can hold us back. And part of being badass is having the courage to recognize that and be okay with it. Like, you know what? That kind of scares me, and it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay, giving ourselves grace because there are, being a human, we do have them. We all have them. They just look differently sometimes in different people. But now I want to know how you went from being in an outdoor program, wilderness program, to being a coach.
Yes.
There's got to be a
Yes.
story there.
Right, of course, there's always stories. So at the Wilderness Therapy Program, we learned all about these things called emotions, called thoughts and beliefs. And I was like, oh, these are kind of cool. Like, yeah, I'm teaching them to you, but I've never been taught them myself. So this is really good for me to know and for everyone else around me to know too. And so thinking about it, it's like, oh, this would have been super helpful when I was at the startup, when I was working in sales, when I was at the paper mill. So many different experiences that would have been so helpful. So after I left, I was like, yep, it's like I have. So it's funny because before I went to the wilderness therapy program, I had considered being a life coach. I was like, I don't have the experience. Like, there's no way I could do this. And then afterwards, I was like, there is every excuse that I had written down is no longer valid. And now it is time to do this. And it is scary. And we are going and we're doing it.
So, so good. Can you see a connection between all of the work that you had done up until that point and how you were finding your way?
Yeah, it's been interesting because I don't always know, like, typically don't always know in the moment how everything connects, but it's really cool to look back and be like, oh, this is why this occurred. My engineering degree has allowed me to connect with other engineers and be able to talk their language and not be afraid of it. And then be like, oh, yeah, this is totally helpful. So a lot of individuals that I've worked with that are more technical, they're more open to talk to me about different things, about their emotions, about human design, for example, like one of the engineers that I worked with. I brought it up to him. I was like, let's try this thing called human design. Let's just play around with it. I'm gonna like tell you kind of who you are and how it works. And then you can tell me if we want to continue with it. So I dove into it and he was like, yeah, I trust you, whatever, we can do it. And so we dove in and he was like, feel like you explained me to a T. Let's continue with this. And I'm like, yes, very good, very good. So it's fun to be able to bridge that gap for a lot of individuals that a lot of this may not be in their field or their understanding or their awareness and bring it towards them. So I see little things like that throughout my whole career come together to be able to help out more people too.
You mentioned human design. I'm very familiar with human design. What are some other modalities that you bring to the table with your clients?
Yes. So, as I mentioned, those thoughts, beliefs, emotions associated with the wilderness therapy program, use that. I now call it mindset because that's all it is. And then the third kind of thing that I work with is strategy because having plan is like, I love, love, love plans. And even though they change, they develop, having a plan gives us courage, gives us spirit, gives us awareness to be able to take that next step for us.
And of course, your engineering degree just highlights that, right? I
Right.
guarantee there isn't an engineer in the world on a job site that doesn't have a plan and doesn't
Right.
understand how things work, right? How things
Hmm.
fit together. So so good. And can I just call out that first of all, you're a lot younger than I am, but you were in a project management position. Oh my God, you were quite young, were you not?
Oh, let's see here. Gotta do the math here. Mid 20s, 27, 28 probably at that time.
What have you learned about yourself though when you went into coaching and you took the training for yourself? What was the biggest thing that you did that you learned?
Yeah, it was funny because the coaching program that I did, uh, I went through it and everyone was like doing pretty good. But then like I would come in and be like, hey guys, like we're doing this. Like we're gonna make some changes, some shifts because we did practice sessions.
Right.
And like I felt like awesome at the end of them being like, yeah, you're moving forward, you're doing this. So it's very interesting in that way because knowing that I knew the skills, I knew what I needed to do. And so coming out of that, I was like, okay, yeah, I got some more confidence. It's funny because during the last few days of the training, I was sick out of my mind, just like had a mask on, I was covered up, sniffling snot, like, oh, it's so nasty, gross, so gross. But I was able to show up and still coach during that time too. So it was wonderful to be able to see that and understand, like, okay, yeah, I can help people no matter what. And like looking back at my life, I've always been the person that my friends, my family come to talk to. I always bring out those next steps for them and be like, okay, oh, you don't like your boyfriend? Well, yeah, this is a continuous problem for you. So let's talk about that and actually what you want in a partner. Things like that.
What I'm hearing, and I've experienced it myself, so I absolutely can attest to this, is that often we are exhibiting our dream life or the dream skills, the skills that are going to take us to our dream. Let me rephrase that from the get-go. I fully believe that when we come out of the womb, we know what our skills are. Like we attract it, we do it. Often we don't know how to turn that into a life's purpose. We don't.
Mm-hmm.
We're not raised to think of a life's purpose. Speaking for myself, I was raised to think, get a great job and be as happy as possible. But it was more connected to find a right guy, raise a nice family, and make decent money. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, sweetheart, what makes you so happy in a day? Like, what's your, none of those types of conversations. I have them with myself now, but I love that you recognize that now. Okay, so let's talk about the badassery that you are sharing with the world today. You mentioned,
Yes.
what's the name of your book?
My book is called Soar by Living Your Life, and I am a wonderful, amazing author and have my book right here for everyone to see.
Right?
Yes. So that is my book. I always have a new program here or there that I am creating and shaping and building because I always like the new and the amazing. I'm a manifestor in human design for those that know human design. So I'm always pushing the envelope. And so right now, the two that I have that I'm working with is travel transformation, where we travel all over the world to be able to transform your life into alignment of what it is that you actually want. And then the second is coaching and co-working, being able to help you move through and do the things that you know you should and want to do with some support along the way. So those are the coaching avenues that I have. I have my weekly email that I have that I get sent out, and then I'm on social media on Facebook as well.
Okay, the most badass thing that you've done this year.
Oh my goodness. A few things. So this was a year that I was like, yeah, all those excuses, we're done with them and we're doing what we want. So I went to a retreat in June or July, sometime in the summer, to June. And it was a Joe Dispenza retreat, and I've been following his work for years now. And I've always wanted to go. And I was like, I am doing this. This is the year we're doing it. So I went, and it was incredible and amazing. And then around that time, I was like, I have been wanting to learn Spanish forever. Like I've tried one program or another. I saw this 6 months to fluency program, and I was like, okay, we're gonna do this. So I'm in the middle of that now. I have hit 50% of the program, and I'm very excited. I'm making a lot of progress with that, so that's been amazing. And then I'm also training for a marathon because why the hell not? And here we go.
Oh, I'll give you lots of reasons why not.
Right?
If only you asked me, I could have told you why not. Oh my
hmm
God. Okay, so Joe Dispenza retreat, mind blowing.
hmm
Learning Spanish, so good. I tried to learn it when I'm from Jamaica, and that was the language that you learned in school.
hmm
All I know how to say is go to the bank. Voy a la banca.
hmm
I laugh. And a marathon, half or full?
Full. We're doing it.
Of course you are.
Right? Exactly. Why not?
Have you done a half marathon?
I had the longest I've run is a 10K. So, and everyone was like, yeah, you should start with a half. And I'm like, why the hell would I settle for something that I know that I want the marathon? I've talked about the marathon. I settled with the 10K. So I'm not settling. We're doing this.
My God, you are such a badass. Okay. Think about though your journey. What do you wish you had known then that you know now?
So much. I think it's the biggest thing is you're okay, you're safe, you can be you at the end of the day. I think there's so much pressure to show up in ways that aren't for us. Um, and this fear of going into the unknown of what if it all burns down? What if I like don't do anything? Like what happens then? And being so afraid of that happening. But knowing, telling myself that it'll be okay, like let it burn all down and see what remains and see what brings you joy, your resilience. It's been funny because when I was young, I would go after what I wanted, like band. I wanted to be in jazz band. I'm like, I'm gonna be in jazz band. Like, don't tell me otherwise. I'm gonna be in jazz band. So I talked to the teacher and I was like, what do I need to do to be in jazz band? I play clarinet. And there's no clarinets and band, jazz band, I know. It's like, play the trombone. It's an automatic spot. It's like, okay, I'm gonna learn trombone. Learn the trombone, convince my parents to take me lessons to be able to do it. And did it. And so, like, leaning into that determination. And I think only in high school did I like start to shut down and be like, oh yeah, it's like there's too much external pressure for me at the time to be able to look, connect, and like, be in the in club and find those friends and everything. But in reality, the more that I leaned back into just doing whatever I wanted to and having the freedom and choice to change that when I wanted to, and realizing that was okay. That's what I would want to share.
Such a great share. And you brought up, you said the words what if, and truly, I often play the what if game with clients, either
Mhm.
purposely. I'm like, okay, I know we need to play the what if game, or it just comes out automatically. Typically, when they are sharing fears. And
Yeah.
so, people's listening, when you recognize that narrative you're telling yourself that you're not good enough, or this, this hurts, or, what if, stop for a moment and ask yourself, okay, but what if I didn't? Or what if it didn't? Because and what you're going to notice is instantly your energy lifts. You go, well, if I didn't feel like shit, I'd feel great. And I would do this and I would do that
Mhm.
and this and all of these amazing things happen. And guess what? You've just jumped into a new paradigm. And so playing the what if game can be so powerful. And the first time that it came to me, I was I was leading a Weight Watcher meeting. This was probably 8 years ago. And there was a member in the meeting very upset that she was so afraid she would overeat at a meal. And of course, this is a very prevalent fear in any sort of weight loss conversation because and I'm a member too, a lot of us are afraid, if I just let go, then I'll just keep. And I remember saying to her, she goes, yeah, but I could do this, this, and this, and this. And I said, okay, so what if you did eat too much? What would happen? And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you just said you were scared of eating too much at the dinner. What if you did? Tell me exactly what that means.
Mhm.
There was silence. She's like, oh my God, I guess I'd have a bellyache. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, have you ever had a bellyache before? And she's like,
Yeah.
yeah. I said, did the world stop spinning? No. Can you navigate recognizing that you ate too much and not beating yourself up for it? And by this time, there was a lot of emotion. And that was
Mhm.
kind of the beginning of me understanding the power of the phrase, what if? So I really just wanted to call out that that's pretty powerful little session there. A little section of what you said has so much power. And it's part of
Mhm.
being a badass is having the courage to say to yourself, okay, what if I fall down?
Mhm.
Fuck, I'm just going to get back up again.
Right. Mhm.
What if they laugh at me? Okay, but what if they don't? What if they actually are cheering you on?
Mhm.
So a beautiful opportunity for growth just in that little phrase. I wanted to pull that out. Well, any last minute thoughts to share on best practices for feeling yourself?
Ooh, yes. Music is one of my favorite ways to tune into it. It's funny, I was working on a coaching and co-working session recently, and they asked me like, we were talking about motivation in some way or another. And it's like they asked me like, how do you get motivated? And I'm like, well, let me tell you, like we got music, of course, is a wonderful tool to be able to use it. And my favorite is like dance music. And then I have some technology tools, like a vibration tool to be able to tune me into a higher like speed and energy. And then, I got thoughts and beliefs. Like if I tap into why I'm doing something, I have so much more energy and motivation. Like if I think about like, oh, a lot of Spanish homework that I have to do now. So sometimes I think in the mindset of, oh, there's like 200 flashcards that I have to do, and it's so much, and how am I going to get it all done? But if I think about how I'm learning a language so I can speak with more people, to be able to understand with them, to communicate with them, to connect with them, that motivates me, that gets me inspired. So tapping into those things for ourselves can allow us to be more badasses and do what we want.
So good. Yeah, I often, it comes up a lot in the work that I do is understanding your motivation, understanding the necessity for the outcome. It can be the carrot that pulls you through the tough times.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't really get why you're doing something and it's hard, oh my God, are you going to do it? Well, you may, but it's going to hurt and it's going to take a long time. But when you're very clear on why, on what our why is, then it does make things easier. Holy hell, I'd love to chat in with you. Can you speak out, share with us your website? Because obviously,
Yes.
I'm check the show notes, but just in case they don't, I want them as well. How can
It
they?
is A Fulfilled Life Coaching is my business name as well as my website. So you can catch me at afulfilledlifecoaching.com.
So good, Mikkel. Thank you so much for sharing your badassery with us today. Your energy is infectious. It's not enough to make me want to run a marathon by any stretch, but I do want to stand up and listen to some good tunes right now. So
There we go. Good.
sharing your journey with us and your story, and look forward to doing this again in the near future, I hope. My name is Mahara. This has been the Art of Badassery. Please share this episode with anyone that you think would benefit from getting a little jolt of energy and badassery in their day, or someone who is perhaps struggling to feel comfortable within themselves and in their life. We are both coaches. We'd love to hear your feedback. And of course, check the show notes to access her book, my guest's book, and of course, the work that she is doing. We'll see you next week on The Art of Badassery when I interview yet another badass chick. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to another badass episode. Your support means the world to me. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, don't forget to like, share, and rate the episode on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback keeps the badassery flowing. And hey, if you're ready to unleash your inner badass and conquer whatever life throws your way, why not book a complimentary badass breakthrough session? Just click the link in the show notes to schedule your session, and let's kick some serious butt together. Until next time, stay fearless, stay fabulous, and of course, stay badass. This is Mahara signing off.